Warren JFK as we talk to a baseball standout in Gavin Shrum. Gavin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Gavin, I mean, let's first and foremost talk about this team going into this season. You on the field, it looks like have kind of taken over that kind of leadership role. I see you coming from shortstop, talking with the pitchers too, calming them down, and when you're not on the mound, was that something you kind of felt you needed to take over? And did you feel the pressures to take over that leadership role after last season? You guys win the championship, and we know Cam Hollabaugh is no longer going to be there.
That was always a big part of my play style. I kind of got influenced by that by my dad back when I was younger, honestly, and 14 and 15 years old. And I've kind of always been the big communicator on the field. To some people, I really never stopped talking, but for me, it's just a way to calm myself, to lock me in my zone and stuff like that, have me paying attention and engaged in the game all the time. It was very important to me last year that I did it, especially because, Cam, he took such weight on his shoulders with that team, and he was like that in all the sports. He would take a lot of pressure onto himself just because he felt like he had to do a lot to help us win and succeed. So, when times got rough for him and we made errors, and sometimes he didn't get always picked up when he wanted to be picked up, I'd have to go in and call time and just talk to him and let him know that I got his back. And that it's just like me and him. It's just like when we play catch or when me and him are just practicing, just like trusting each other, and we'll get the job done. And that translated into this year. I've always been a huge communicator, letting everyone know where the ball is going, like how many outs there are, having everyone be engaged in the game. And, when our pitchers get in trouble, I want them to have that same feeling that me and Cam had, like, I got your back. Just let's do this and let's get through this.
We talk about experience a lot in this show and how experienced teams are the ones that make deep tournament runs. What did the experience from last year and going through that state championship run, what did you take from that into this year to help this team?
Um, Honestly, at Kennedy, it's a blessing because we've had so much playoff experience, whether that be in baseball last year in particularly. We made it to the state championship and won it. And then in past years in football, where we've made countless far runs. And that I believe that those years in football and, my freshman year when we made a run to districts in baseball, that all accumulated and contributed to our state run in baseball last year, and what continues to drive us and push us this year and years going in the future. Um, we gained a lot of experience from, the state championship last year, and what you're going to see is, teams and districts and stuff like that might not be as great as you, but you can't play down to that level. Some days you're going to have bad days. That's just baseball, but we can't ever play down to our competition. If we play a bad team or someone that we just don't think is as good as us, with all respect, but we just got to do our job and put them in the ground. And that's been in all sports. Coming from last year, we also know that we know what it takes to get back to that state championship. And we're all going to have to mesh as a team and know everyone has our backs, and we can't get frustrated through hard times. So as we keep going into the playoffs, we know we're going to see better and better teams, better and better pitching. And in the regular season, we can't be afraid of, some of these bigger teams that we play, including today. We play Austintown Fitch, who's a much bigger team than us and a much bigger school. And we can't be afraid of that. And I don't think that I've had one time in particular where a team we faced was a lot bigger than us and we just kind of like stepped down from them. We've always took the bull by the horns and then did what we ever had to do.
Gavin, let's talk about that too. This last year, you pitched in the state championship game, and talk about needing ice in your veins. You got through it. You weathered the storm, and you guys came out on top. Has that experience kind of changed your outlook on games too? Like, what was kind of the procedure to kind of compose yourself on the mound prior to that, and has that kind of changed with the pressure situations you face in games now?
And I've talked to a few people about this game. And honestly, it was a crazy feeling, and it's just where God comes into play, and what's meant to be is what meant to be. when I went into that state championship game, a lot of people talked to me about like what were my emotions going through my body before that. I was like I was very nervous. Um, I talked to countless people. I talked to Cam. I talked to Alex and Michael, who are some of my best friends, and they just kind of helped bring me up, release my nerves, and let me just go do and play the game that I love. Um, when we got there, I just felt like it was a job, and I mentioned this to some of the reporters after the state game. It was my job to just go out there and get that win for Cam after everything that he's done. So I kind of felt like I was obligated to do that, and I did, which was incredible.
Mr.
During
Cattell, sixth period class should go to Mr. Markstrom. Again, Mr. Cattell,
hold
sixth
on.
period, please go to Mr. Markstrom.
Sorry. During that game, it was very weird and eerie because I only remember a couple innings, which isn't really what you want from a state championship game. Yeah, you hope to remember the entire thing, but it was really weird because I remember going out there the first inning, um, getting the job done. Like that was getting those 3 outs was probably the biggest obstacle for me in that first inning because the nerves were up. Everyone was really nervous. It was a state championship game, big game. Um, and then they started calming like throughout the game, and I just got this takeover factor that I've had sometimes, but this was just stronger than any time that I've ever had it before. Um, and it was kind of like a blackout feeling. So I remember the first 2 innings where I went out, pitched, and then I came in from the second inning, and I just kind of admitted to myself, this is just going to be a pitcher's duel. Um, our bats are going to have to get it done, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to not let them score any runs. And I knew I had a great pitcher on the other team I was going up against. He went to Ashland. He's succeeding there. But it just came down to who wants it more and who has a bigger heart for it. In the last couple innings, I remember throwing the last pitch and then jumping up and down with my teammates, and that was a great feeling. And that kind of leads into this year. My first start against Matthews, I was incredibly nervous. Not as nervous as a state game, but I was still very nervous. And it wasn't just because, they were an incredible team or anything that I was scared to lose to, but it was about the pressures that I was bringing with putting on my shoulders because of what I did last year. I know that after what I did last year, it was incredible, and I couldn't have done it without my teams, my family, and all the other people who supported me. But I knew I was going to be held to a very high standard this year, and I was going to be expected a lot of this year. And that was just one of the things that I had to deal with in the first start. And I did. I took my time. I worked a lot slower than I usually do. My tempo is really never slow. I always like to work fast. In that game, I worked very, very slow. But I settled in. I got comfortable, and then all the other starts from this year, I kind of worked at my own pace and didn't even think about it.
One of the great things about high school baseball is when you're on the mound, you also get the chance to hit and help you out at your own cause. Talk about switching mentalities from being on the mound to then having to grab a bat and go up against another pitcher. And what kind of advantages does that give you, knowing the pitching mindset and knowing how guys might think on how guys might want to throw to you?
Honestly, coming into this year, going to Malone and announcing that before the season, I knew I was going to get very hard at bats. And coming from a pitcher's mindset, whenever you face a kid that is going to a college or a high level, you always try to work around and you find the best possible ways to, get that player out. And, so I do think that a lot of teams do their homework on me. And of course, some of the rest of our players on our team, like Alex, Aiden, Jake, and Caleb, they're all great players. And 1 through 5, we're very, very dangerous 1 through 5. But when I step in the box, I know just from a high school pitcher's mindset, because not everyone's super advanced or to the levels that I see in summer ball. Average high school pitcher is just going to, if you're a 3 hitter, which I am, I'm probably going to get more curveballs than fastballs, obviously. But I know that I have to take advantage of those fastballs that I do see. And that was a big thing that I worked on in the off season, is hitting the all fields, line to line, wherever I could go with it. I had to learn how to hit a high pitch. I had to learn how to not pop that high pitch up and just drive it into the ground or get a line drive out of it, because I had to realize for myself that the best ways that I could utilize my tools on the field. So with hitting that high pitch or hitting a ground ball, it's so much better than hitting a pop fly for me, because that gives me an opportunity to beat it out. When these pitchers pitch to me and I get deeper into counts, I never really think you never want to guess as a hitter where you're going to get. You always sit fastball, adjust to off speed. And when I get deep into those counts, I just get my foot down, and then I have to take it wherever the pitch is thrown.
Let's talk about the committing of the next level too. I think we've talked with you before, but what made that decision so easy for you to commit to Malone University and just go to the next level? And I'm sure, like you said, doing it before the season relieved a lot of pressure in that aspect before.
Yeah. So, I talked to Juice, who's probably a familiar name that you guys have heard, especially down at Scene Park. Great coach, even better mentor. I talked to Chimbody, and then another coach who I go see personally, who probably helped me the most during my recruiting process. I told them, I want to get committed before the season starts, just to relieve some of the pressure off my shoulders, because I play better when I'm just loose and free and I'm not worrying about a bunch of things. I couldn't have done that commitment without my friends, especially my family, the coaches. They were just all so good to me. What made it so easy is I went to the college multiple times. I stayed overnight one time, and I got to practice with them. So when I went into that college, and that was one of the very few visits that I felt like very welcomed, and it related very closely to our high school. How if a new kid comes in, we welcome them with open arms, and everyone's treated as a family. And that's just one thing that you see with Kennedy, and it's mentioned a lot. And some people get it, some people don't. When you go to Kennedy, there's just a different mindset instilled in you. And I'd say that starts with football, and then it translates to all your other sports. If you work hard enough, you'll get to where you want to go. And I firmly believe that. And that hard work, it takes dedication, but hard work pays off. And that's what you see at Kennedy. Kids are constantly working hard. Coaches are constantly working hard. Families are constantly working hard to send their kid here to provide a better life for them, better athletic standpoint for them, and all around just better education for them. And I couldn't be more grateful for all those people that have helped me.
Because you're a multiple sport athlete, and obviously you have the summer ball and you have your personal coaches, you had the opportunity to be coached by a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities. How much do you think that has helped you grow as a person and as an athlete, to get different mindsets and different personalities coming at you from different angles every time you get coached by a different person?
I love all my coaches. I love everything that they've done for me. I couldn't thank them enough. But I will say, like, as a kid and as a player, I've been around so many great coaches, and I've picked up so many great tips that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. And it's not just me being on a ball field. It's about in the classroom, what you could do just as a person, being a better person to everyone else, helping with charity or something like that in service. And just when you come to Kennedy, and a lot of these coaches preach you this, not even at Kennedy, but summer ball coaches, they want you to be the best version of yourself. And they want to teach you lessons that are bigger than baseball and that you're going to carry with into your life. And I would say that I have definitely picked up a lot of tips physically playing baseball on the field, but I've also picked up a lot of tips mentally. And, that helps as a baseball player, because baseball is a very mental game. And you have to know how to control your emotions. You're not always going to succeed. Baseball is a game of failure, and it's all about how well you can deal with that failure.
Talk about one last thing we want to leave you with, Gavin, before we let you go. I always want to give you the chance to shout out your support system. But in doing that, I also want you to you talk about all those coaches. What's some of the best advice you've ever received from a coach that you take with you day to day?
this was a saying by our junior high football coach, Coach Binko, and he's real old school. And he always said to us at the end of practice when we were in 7th and 8th grade is you get more bees with honey than you do vinegar. And essentially breaking that down, what it means is, you get better outcomes and you're just an overall better person if you're sweeter to people and nicer to people and you don't judge people versus like off of, just your first impression off them. Rather than if you're just a stingy dude who doesn't really want to listen to anything, you're not going to really get anywhere. And that's with coachability too. If you're nice, you're just willing to have an open mind when coaches come to you and just listen to you, and they're there for you. They're not your biggest enemy. They're your biggest supporters, aside from your family and your friends, and they want to see you succeed. So I'd say that was a huge lesson that I learned from one of my old time coaches. Um, but with Frank Tempesta, I'm not sure if you know, but he's our strength and conditioning coach. And then our football coaches and our baseball coaches. Everyone preaches, hard work pays off, and it really does. And you can really see it in a lot of different people, um, where their dreams are coming true because of the hard work that they put in. And notable names that this have happened to in the last week have been the Valiant brothers. Thomas and Patrick work incredibly hard, and they're always grinding, always trying to make themselves better. Thomas does a ton of service work, and he's just an overall great person, and great things happen to great people. Thomas got offered by Wheeling, a D2 school in West Virginia, and Pat made his commitment to Rice earlier this week, and it just shows, and it's a testament of how that hard work does pay off in the future, and how everyone has different. Everyone's gonna have different goals, and we shoot for the stars. Maybe we grab a couple, maybe land on the moon or something like that, but it's all about your goals and stuff like that.
All right, Gavin, before we let you go, I want to get to know you a little bit off the field, so I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. What is your favorite dessert?
I'd have to say ice cream. I'm an ice cream or a cheesecake guy. I can really go for some cheesecake at Cheesecake Factory in Cleveland.
All right. Since you said ice cream, you got to have a follow up here. Who makes the best ice cream?
Katie's Corner.
It's an easy one. I like it too.
Undoubtedly.
What's your favorite breakfast food?
Probably just eggs, bacon, toast, stuff like that. I really don't drink coffee that much, but I really do love milk. Cereal is not a bad option either, but I like to stay on the healthier side, so bacon, eggs.
If they were going to make a movie about your life, what actor do you think you would want to play you?
I'd always want to be the underdog. I'd always want, because that's just how I am in real life. I want, and a lot of people can't take this very well, but I really want, and I really love when people just don't think that I can do something. I love when people doubt me. And that's one thing coming into this season. I really want people to think that we can't go back to a state championship because we lost Cam, and I just want to prove everyone wrong. So I love being the underdog.
Do you have a nickname? And if you don't, what would you want your nickname to be?
People just call me Shrummy. I mean, it's just the last name. They just that's how they go. It's kind of always just mixed with me, and people have just held on to it all my life.
What are you going to major in college?
Finance. So I plan on majoring in finance, kind of getting my hands into everything. I feel like knowing a lot about financials is very important. So
if you could afford any car, what car would you want to buy?
I want to get a Mustang. I like keeping it simple. I don't want to go shoot for these fancy cars and everything. I don't like to show off a whole lot. I mean, I do here and there, but I feel like the quality of life is a lot better than the things that you buy.
All right, but just to stay on that track, what's the one thing that you spend the most money on that you look back on and say, maybe this is frivolous?
Oh, I like baseball gloves. I have 3 or 4. I think I have 3 baseball gloves, a couple of trading mitts. So I spend a lot of my money on that, which I really don't need to, but I just have a habit for buying baseball gloves, and I just love them.
Do you stick with one glove through the season? Like, is this your season glove?
So yes, I do stick with one glove through my season. For the last, I mean, I could have 3-4 gloves on hand, but it's just kind of that, I don't know, love at first sight when I pick a glove. I had and it's weird. It's like I'm married to the glove. I have a red, white, and blue glove that I pitched with last year in the state championship. I used that for 3 years, and I'm absolutely in love with that glove. But I kind of decided to retire it after what happened last year, and I moved on to a new glove that I really like that I had previously, and I really broke it in this off season, and I started playing with it, and I've grown to like it a lot.
All right, Gavin, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, letting us get to know you a little bit on and off the field. We look forward to continuing our coverage of your season, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.